Disney's animated output always gets a lot of attention in many top 10 lists, and their live-action work ends up being overlooked as a result. However, they've made plenty of great ones over the years, whether from Walt Disney's day or in the modern era, so I'm going to count them down. However, since the Walt Disney Company has grown a lot over the years and have multiple divisions and acquisitions, to be fair, I'm only going to count those films produced and released under the Disney name. So no Touchstone, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. Sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy and The Force Awakens. Still love you though. So, with those ground rules out of the way, here are my top 10 favorite live-action Disney films. Swiss Family Robinson. This one is just good, old-fashioned Disney fun. Adapted from the classic book, director Ken Anakin captured the imagination of what we would imagine being on a desert island would be like. There's a light-hearted tone to the film that's also infectious, especially a race involving ostriches. Yet the adventure is exciting too, especially the ongoing threat from a band of pirates. The set design brings the island to life, and the cast all work really well together, and they come across as a legitimate family unit. There's an optimism to this film as they try and make the most of their situation. It almost makes me wish Walt Disney had produced a live-action adaptation of Tarzan back in the day, because he would have added a real spirit to the story, not unlike what he did with Swiss Family Robinson. Tron and Tron Legacy. If there are two films that represent where technology was during their respective releases, it's definitely the Tron series. Maybe it's cheating a little bit to put these two in the same spot, but I really do have an equal admiration for both of these movies. Tron captures that excitement so many people had for the video games of the 80s, and when we foresaw a whole world of possibilities within the computer. The primitive but revolutionary special effects add to its charm and really sucks you into the world, the light cycle race being a particular standout. Tron Legacy, meanwhile, did a great job of continuing the story using the best of modern CGI, and I felt it really hit that emotional sweet spot. The updated world of the grid was amazingly designed, and Joseph Kosinski quickly established himself as a visionary director to watch out for. The action is tremendous and visually breathtaking, and I love the world building put in place for the sequel. Both Trons complemented each other perfectly, and yes, I was one of those people disappointed that we will never see the third Tron, because I really want to know where these characters will go and more adventures in the grid. At least we got these two stunningly crafted pictures that are definitely important entries in the science fiction genre. The Rocketeer. This is a pulpy delight in the best way possible. Rocketeer has such a charming and feel-good tone to it, taking us back to the classic serials. Even though it certainly owes a bit of debt to Indiana Jones, director Joe Johnston is still able to make it stand out and not become just another clone. The special effects work and James Horner's rousing score play a big role in establishing the mood of the movie, but the characters are wonderful too. Billy Campbell projects such a likability into the lead role, and his chemistry with Jennifer Connelly is very sweetly written. We also have the classic 1940s B-movie villain roles for mobsters and Nazis that truly help in making this seem like it came straight from the era. The Rocketeer still seems very underrated in many circles, and I think it certainly deserves more viewings, as it's very easy to smile while watching it. John Carter. Another throwback to classic pulp adventure serials. While this may go down in history as one of the biggest financial failures in Hollywood, I will still continue to be enchanted by Andrew Stanton's vision. I was brought to Barsoom right along with Carter, and I thought he and Deja Torres created a strong team. The world building is tremendous, as every little part of the planet has been so clearly thought out, and the action is exciting, fueled by some amazing special effects work. Most importantly, it gets into the heart of the John Carter character. There's a lot of hidden depth within him, as he's somebody still holding a lot of grief over what happened to his family. In one scene, Stanton even succeeds in the difficult task of combining a bloody battle with a heart-wrenching flashback, with an ease that is almost enviable. Through that entire 2-hour-plus runtime, I'm transported elsewhere, and I was never bored for a second. The whole production is brilliantly mounted, the screenplay respects the characters, and like Tron Legacy, I'm disappointed this is the last we'll ever see of John Carter's adventures on the big screen. Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. This is a really emotional one. Even though I've never owned a pet, I cannot help but get teary-eyed at multiple points in this film. It's able to push those buttons, but without becoming overly schmaltzy. One cannot help but root for these three animals to return home to their family. What works is that the filmmakers don't sugarcoat that journey. There is constant danger, and there's a worry that they won't return to their family. That the film cuts back to their owners on occasion adds more to the emotionality of it. The use of having well-known actors providing voices for the animals could have ended up being really corny, but the script gives them strong dialect to say, and Michael J. Fox, Sally Field, and especially Don Amici are perfectly cast. I also cannot listen to Bruce Brown's score and not get emotional. And then there's that ending. It does not matter how many times I've seen Homeward Bound. Every time I see the final scene, I'm between smiling widely and crying uncontrollably. It's an emotional roller coaster from beginning to end, and absolutely worthy of a spot on this list. Enchanted. Here's a film that on the surface seems like your typical romantic comedy, involving two complete opposites who meet by chance and then slowly through the course of the film start to fall in love. However, hiring former Disney artist Kevin Lima was a stroke of genius on the producer's part, as it turned this into both a cheeky send-up and loving homage to classic Disney tropes. As a Disney fan, watching this film and catching all the little Easter eggs is just a small part of the fun here. Amy Adams is an absolute delight as Giselle, mainly because of how the character evolves through the course of the story. She goes from happy, perky princess to somebody more human in a believable way, and her growing chemistry with Patrick Dempsey is believable. The Alan Menken songs are wonderful, each leaving a memorable impression, with the Central Park set tune, That's How You Know, serving as the highlight. This is the very definition of magical, and it's a film I definitely go back to now and again, just for the sheer joy it brings. Tomorrowland. I guess this is a controversial opinion, since there are a portion of people who really don't like this film. Me? I was with this film the second the soundtrack started playing, It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. As an optimist trying hard to live in a world that favors cynicism and rejection, it was refreshing to have this film come out and say that it's okay to have optimism and expect a brighter future. Brad Bird and Damon Lindelof were clearly inspired by a lot of the ideas Walt Disney had about the future, and they did a wonderful job of putting them on the screen. When we get that incredible shot early on of Tomorrowland, it's nothing short of inspiring, but also thoughtful, as I wondered why we had not reached this point yet. They also crafted two wonderful lead protagonists in the form of Casey Noon and Athena, two characters more people should aspire to be like. The journey had a very Spielbergian vibe, especially with the fantastic ideas Bird and Lindelof put onto the screen. For me, though, it's the moment that makes or breaks some people that made me fall head over heels in love with Tomorrowland. The ending, which I certainly will not spoil for you. But it's at that point when all the pieces come together with what Bird and Lindelof wants to tell the audience about the future, and it's the right anvil that needs to be dropped to break us out of our current mindset. It's a motivator, and every time I watch Tomorrowland, I feel like soaring right along with the characters to another, better world. I've had people be shocked I love this movie so much, but if you've been following my opinion long enough and know where I stand in regards to Walt Disney's dreams, ideas, and innovations, this should not be shocking. And yes, I do plan on making a fuller, longer defense on Tomorrowland in the future. Saving Mr. Banks. Much like Tomorrowland, this was a film that was especially made for me. A film looking at the creation of Mary Poppins with Walt Disney as a major character? Of course I love it. However, what really made me love this film was not just the depiction of Disney and the Sherman brothers writing those songs, but how it delved into P.L. Travers and her motivations. This film truly captured that feeling when an author has to watch something so dear to them be handled by other collaborators. The way the film jumps back and forth between her time at the Disney Studios and her childhood in Australia really worked in endearing me to this otherwise bitter character. The screenplay smartly manages to touch on those emotions, but I never felt it became too melodramatic in its handling of the subject matter. Everyone was wonderfully chosen, with Emma Thompson capturing the dual emotions of Travers, and I bought Tom Hanks as Walt Disney, who is portrayed as flawed, and you really see his slight annoyance at having somebody not give him exactly what he wishes for once. That a film produced by the Walt Disney Company to depict their namesake as such is impressive in its own right. This was a wonderful and touching film that did both Travers and her story justice. Mary Poppins. With Saving Mr. Banks on my list, of course I'm going to include Mary Poppins. This is pretty much a delightful musical from start to finish. The Sherman Brothers songs are classic and instantly memorable. There is not a single forgettable tune in the bunch. The script is funny and sweet, but also tackling fitting themes about family, and how sometimes one can be tied to their jobs a little too much. Julie Andrews has been praised constantly over the years for the title performance, but it's richly deserved. She is able to keep the appropriate sternness while also showing the magic hidden underneath her bag of tricks. Everything is paced and planned so wonderfully by the filmmakers. Even a musical number within the chalk drawings that might otherwise have added little to the plot actually does serve a greater purpose. The special effects are amazing and still leave one trying to figure out how they pull them off in 1964. It's just an absolute charm of a film. It feels like Walt Disney was really building towards making this film through his entire career. It seems no matter what age, Mary Poppins strikes the right chord of a lot of people, and it will remain timeless for many years to come. It was recently announced that a sequel is in production. I'm sure the crew is already under a lot of pressure to make sure they make something worthy of the first film. So all I'm going to say is, good luck. I know what you're thinking, Mary Poppins isn't number one? What could your favorite live-action Disney film possibly be? Well, it's none other than 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. As directed by Richard Fleischer, this was a major undertaking for the Disney studios, as they never mounted a live-action production as massive as this one, and it really paid off. This is a classic adventure in all the right places, and Fleischer really nails the proper tone in taking Jules Verne's classic story and putting it on screen. A lot of it is exciting as we see our leads pondering how to leave the grasp of Captain Nemo. There's also great mystery surrounding Nemo, as played brilliantly by James Mason. He's a really complicated figure, and one can certainly relate to the other characters and their curiosity surrounding him. All the locales just leap off the screen, whether the interiors of the Nautilus or the underwater realms of the deep they explore. When I watch it, I feel like I've become submerged just like Nemo and Ned Land. And who can forget the famous battle with the giant squid? This was an amazingly mounted production, and the script and direction really pushed it into being something special. This film also showed Walt Disney's capabilities as a producer and his willingness to take his movies into other directions one wouldn't expect from him. And he did it by hiring the right people and making sure everything worked. And of his live-action productions, I think 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea stands as his crown jewel. So those are my favorite live-action Disney films, but I'm also curious what yours are. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.